Hello, my name is Rodney, and I'm part of the crew.
Hi guys, my name is Jamal Gonzalez and I'm part of the crew.
Hi guys, my name is Eric Matthews and I'm a part of the crew as well.
Hey everyone, my name's Haley Masters and I'm part of the crew.
Hello, I'm Rosetta Edom and I'm part of the crew.
And I am Latoria Willis and I make up the end of the crew.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about cognitive behavior therapy. Cognitive behavior therapy, also known as CBT, is a form of talking therapy, which can be used to treat people with a wide range of mental health problems. CBT is based on the idea of how we think, our cognition, how we feel, which is our emotion, and how we act, such as our behavior. With all of the following interacting together, our thoughts determine our feelings and our behavior. The concept of CBT can be of great use to those who may practice in positive psychology. With a deeper understanding of personal cognition and its relationship to behavior, people can change their lives through changing the way that they think. Cognitive therapy is centered on the individual's thoughts as the expression of his or her emotions and behaviors and therefore personality. Many cognitive theorists believe that without these thought processes, we could have no emotions and no behavior and would therefore not function. By becoming more mindful when it comes to one's cognitive thoughts and breaking automatic negative thoughts, this can lead people into a more healthier outlook and better understanding of their power over their future reactions to certain things. Now we're going to go to Haley Masters.
Hi everybody, my name's Haley Masters and I'm going to be talking about acquiring and maintaining behaviors in cognitive theory. The first that I'm going to talk about is rational emotive behavior therapy, also known as REBT. And that was a type of therapy in cognitive theory that was developed by Albert Ellis. According to Ellis, our behaviors are acquired through people having irrational thoughts, beliefs, and ideals, and that these thoughts cause us to be miserable and basically cause the despair and problems in our lives. And he believed that all of these, no matter how many people he saw, could be simply categorized into different areas that are universal. So on the slide, I have 11 irrational beliefs that are challenged by REBT. These are, I must be loved by everyone, else I am not lovable. I must do everything well, else I am incompetent. I must damn others if they do not treat me well. I must damn life if things do not go my way. I must control events and people because they control how I feel. I must worry about anything fearful or risky. I must avoid responsibilities and problems in order to be comfortable, content, or happy. I must depend on others, else my life or self will fall apart or be too vulnerable. I must be controlled by my past and disturbed by anything that once disturbed me. I must damn others' problems and be disturbed by them as if they are my own. I must damn life if I cannot find the perfect answers or solutions to human problems. So he believed that these were the irrational beliefs that we all hold. And his therapy, REBT, was focused on transforming these irrational beliefs. So on the next slide, we have REBT continued. So the maintenance of these behaviors. Ellis believed that therapists recognize these beliefs in their client and in a very direct and what some may call a little abrasive techniques, they can pull these out of the client just by talking to them and then dispute these irrational thoughts, helps the client to reframe these irrational beliefs into rational beliefs. His model that he used was called the ABC model. It included an activating event, a belief, and then a consequence. So say a negative event happens in the order of ABC, the negative event, then you have a rational belief, so you could have a healthy negative emotion. But if you have an irrational belief, then you have an unhealthy negative emotion. And the therapist's job was to change that belief that centered from the event and then caused the emotion. And on the next slide, I have a short little video to kind of give you an idea of who Albert Ellis was. Like it said in our text, they had to use direct quotations from him to kind of describe his personality. Also, not suitable for work warning, but here is Albert Ellis.
You have written that I am one of the best loved psychologists in the United States, but I'm also probably the most hated one. What do you mean by that statement?
Well, I mean that I'm loved because I see a lot of people and I write a lot of books and articles, and they help literally millions of people, so some of them love me. But on the other hand, I have unconventional views, and I sometimes say shit and fuck and things like that. So many very conventional people hate me.
Next, we're going to talk about Aaron Beck and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is another very widely used form of therapy in cognitive theory. So Beck believed that life experiences trigger automatic maladaptive thoughts, which are also called cognitive distortions. They're either too broad, too narrow, too extreme, or just inaccurate. They usually come from maladaptive core beliefs or schemas, which are usually developed in childhood. When we experience mental and emotional problems, it's usually due to these distorted thinking patterns. So there's a flow chart over here that shows the early experience develops a core belief. Some sort of event then triggers unhelpful thoughts, which create behavior and emotions. The next slide, you see the cognitive triad. So Beck believed that depression specifically could be treated by using CBT methods and looking at the cognitive triad. So the cognitive triad is beliefs about self, beliefs about the future, and beliefs about others. These are all affected by those core beliefs, as stated before, or schemas. And there's a video here of him giving some more in-depth information about these core beliefs.
Quote unquote healthy individuals also have negative core beliefs? And if so, how do these core beliefs differ from the individuals who kind of have unhealthy core beliefs?
The people who have the unhealthy core beliefs have very robust beliefs, so they're strong. And so this belief will prevail over relatively neutral situations. So if the core belief is if I fail, it means I'm miserable. So I'm a miserable person if I fail. If it's a really robust belief, this belief is going to influence the way they perceive relatively neutral situations. So if they fail if they don't do well at ping pong, they might feel real bad afterwards because this belief is so strong. A person might have the same belief, but it's not so robust. And if they fail, they are able to toss it off. I mean, it doesn't dominate their thinking the way it does with people who have the robust belief.
On the next slide, we have CBT continued. So the maintenance of behaviors in CBT. Therapists use a collaborative approach and work with the client to change their maladaptive thoughts. Unlike in REBT and Ellis's rather brash approach to things, Beck believed that therapists should use an empathetic and collaborative approach with their clients to work as a team. The therapists then help reframe these cognitive distortions so that the client can accurately process their events and in turn, have less distressing behaviors and feelings. Therapists also identify core beliefs that are causing these thoughts so that they can work on restructuring these schemas. And to the right, we have some of the original cognitive distortions, according to Ellis. which includes selective abstraction, which is drawing conclusions on the basis of just one of many elements of a situation. Minimalism, which is downplaying the importance of a positive thought, emotion, or event. Personalization, which is attributing personal responsibility for events which aren't under a person's control. Arbitrary inference, which is drawing conclusions when there's little or no evidence. Magnification, which is making a mountain out of a molehill, blowing things out of proportion. And overgeneralization, which is making sweeping conclusions based on a single event. These cognitive distortions were some of the original 7, but since these have been expanded by one of Beck's students. And next up, we have Rodney Walker.
Okay, hello, my name is Rodney. So what I'll be doing identification of change strategy. But before I do that, I want to talk about the change wheel. And in that change wheel, there are several different moving parts in that. One of them is pre-contemplation. What that means is no intention to change whatsoever the behavior. To give you an example, think about like an alcoholic. Think about an alcoholic trying to change and wanting to make that change and those stages going through that change. And contemplation is aware of the problem, but still there's no commitment, there's no action to make that change, still thinking and still drinking and still going through those same behaviors. Okay, so the next one would be preparation. Preparation is intent in making the change and to address the problem. So we're still at that stage where you're thinking about the ideal of what you're going to do, how you're going to prepare, and how you're going to make that change in your life. The action is actually modifying the behavior. And modifying behavior could be going out to a social event and just staying away from the alcohol and just refusing that alcohol. The next one would be maintenance. Just finding a way to replace that behavior. It could be a counselor, it could be like a group session, it could be anything just to replace that behavior. And then also you will have some people that will have a relapse in that behavior, but then that change wheel keeps going on and on and on and on. That's just to give you an example. So to talk about CBT and to talk about the change process in that, the first thing is we're going to talk about thoughts. What the thoughts are what we think affects how we feel and act. The behaviors are what we do to affect what we feel. The emotions are what we feel affect how we think. And I want to give you another example. When I look at the change strategy for a business, some of the things that are strategic in making that business happen and to make their goals efficient are the strategic planning. Some of the inputs for business, and I'm comparing this to the CBT, for business, for the input, you have to have the resources needed for that business to run, right? And the activities are the actions that we take to carry out that business or the model strategy. And also the effects on the output are going to be the direct results and the byproducts of the business. The outcomes are the intent and unintended effects on that output. So the impact would be the unlimited impact area which we contribute, right? So when we look at CBT, and that was just a business strategy, but when we look at CBT, the first input would be the psychotherapist or the counselor who will help you go through those sessions, right? And then the activities would be the life learned skills learned from that therapy session or that counselor. The output would be the direct result applied from that life skill. And the outcome would be the intent or the unintended effect of the output. And the last thing would be what happens, like the impact, right? Seeing and maintaining the ultimate change throughout the feeling, the thought, and the behavior of that individual. And that will be the change strategy.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the application to diverse populations, how CBT works with diverse populations. There have been several studies on CBT, but there's one particular study that was completed by Dartmouth Psychiatric Research Center on Native Americans. It wasn't very successful. It was determined that CBT is not as cultural bound as they would like it to be. They need more studies in that in order to use that type of therapy on Native Americans, because one would need to know about what the cultural beliefs are for them, as well as experiences in order to help them in a more liberating and adaptive way. Another study that we found was one that was done to explore the role of ethnicity and receiving cognitive behavioral therapy for people with psychosis or bipolar disorder. And it showed that minorities were less likely to receive any sessions of CBT when compared with their counterparts of white British people. The particular study also showed the disparities in the receipt of CBT with a large provider for Black Americans and Caribbean people. So the actual disparities show the difference in different community settings. Um, there is a table that actually shows what the numbers were. The percentage of non-white British, Irish, Black American, Black Caribbean, and South Asian. It was a baseline demographic and diagnosis that showed relevant proportions for each ethnic group. So in retrospective, CBT is not something that's actually effective for people of minorities right now. There was another article that was completed by Cambridge University Press. And basically what they were doing, they argued that more resources were required in order to understand the different barriers in assessing mental health for Black, Asian, and minority ethnic users. With their experience, they found that many therapists actually lack the experience or confidence to ask questions about a client's ethnicity, their culture, or the experience they've had with racism. And it's basically because they didn't want to offend the person that they were talking to, so they didn't ask the question. So a lot of therapists haven't received training in this area or support, so some don't think that it's important for them to discuss those aspects while they are in therapy. So basically you have a situation and you have a minority that's in therapy, and basically some of the cognitions is they have to acknowledge they don't understand the ethnicity. As far as the therapist, they don't understand the ethnicity, the cultural, religion, or they're not sure that the person that they're the best person to work with them. So in a sense like that, they basically feel that they may offend them, so they may send them off to someone else. So the cognitive behavioral therapy is not something that has been used with minorities, but it is something that needs to be used more frequently. It is very effective for a vast amount of mental disorders like PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And again, like I said, several studies have been done on PTSD, but not many studies have been done, have been completed to treat the effects of anxiety and depression with CBT. So it is necessary to understand how culture actually shapes anxiety and depressive types of distress in different populations in order to get involved in a culturally sensitive way with anxiety and depressive disorders. All right, so now we will actually move to Eric and Jamal.
My name is Jamal Gonzalez, and I'll be talking about CBT, the settings in which this is used. 5 of the main settings that this is used is psychiatric office, educational psychology, behavioral health rehab, such as drug rehabilitation, and private practice psychology and psychiatry also. So cognitive behavioral therapy can be used to help people better understand and change their mindsets and see things in life that is better for their health and for others around them. Settings in which this is used is psychiatric hospitals, like the one that I work at the moment. There's plenty of therapists that use this to be able to a better gathering of what the child needs or the person needs by facilitate a safe area. It's a lot harder to be able to get a patient or a person to attend a meeting somewhere or go to an office repeatedly once a week or so. But once they're actually in the hospital and contained, they can better be helped consistently to where CBT can can provide something. As Latoya said a while ago, this doesn't always go well with Native American heritage or other cultures that have a different upbringing or mindset of how they should see their day-to-day lives. And one way that I've seen this actually be a help is with children. They're like sponges. They're easy to mold and they're easy to grab onto the information that you're giving them. And if you have them in a controlled environment, then it becomes even easier to facilitate that for them. CBT should be used as a part of a tool belt, not as a main focus for what is trying to achieve, but as part of a tool belt. So having cultural therapy in your tool belt and CBT with a mixture of another type of therapy can really bring out and help what people need for them to be able to progress and grow in society as humans. Eric will explain the issues that this has.
Hi guys, my name is Eric again. I'm gonna talk about the issues with CBT. So due to the structure of nature of CBT, it may not be suitable for people with more complex mental health needs or learning difficulties. As CBT can involve confronting your emotions and anxieties you may experience in initial periods where you are more anxious or emotional and uncomfortable in certain situations. You may also feel physically drained, require you to comfort situations you rather avoid, can lead to temporary stress or anxiety. Conclusion for this issue is CBT is based on the idea that how we think cognition, how we feel emotions, and how we act behavioral all interact together. Specifically, our thoughts determine our feelings on our behavior. Therefore, negative and unrealistic thoughts can cause us distress and resulted in this problem. This is more so like the issues that we still have with it, still we're going to face within CBT. That's all I have for that part. I'm going to give it back to our guy, Mr. Rodney.
Thank you, everybody, for participating. But let's talk about it. Like, what do you all learn from this? Like, give me some feedback about CBT.
I guess I'll go first. I'm already.
Okay.
I feel like the feedback that I got from this is more so like I feel like this is talking to me. Like basically, like I feel like at times I'm physically drained, or like when I was growing up, I didn't also face certain situations. Like I didn't know how to confront them. I didn't know how to go about it. So what I did is just avoid. I avoided as much people as I can,
Mm-hmm.
and it did cause some relationship problems. It caused all type of different situations for me. But as I got older, I started to, start to realize and go about it differently. Now I'm not scared to confront a situation, or if I feel any type of way, I don't hide it. I confront it at hand basically, and then I just kind of know also on the back end of it, like not to be able to stress me out.
Okay. Thank you. And when I talk about the change wheel, like as you're speaking and as you're talking, in my mind, I'm thinking that change process, like going through that change and, making that behavior, like just deleting it altogether, right? And then going forward with the right behavior. But what else are we learning? Like somebody else give me something else.
I learned that this type of therapy can be very useful with children. At a young age, if you begin to change their perspective of how they see the world, by the time they become adults, then this can really have an impact. For older folks, it can be more of a battle to teach an old dog new tricks, you know what I mean? So that's what I see from it. I said, if you get them young, it works out. And if you get them older, then it's going to be a struggle for that therapist. So.
Yeah, and I do believe that as well, because like with children and young people, their minds are so like sponges and they can actually gravitate towards things and they can learn things. And like I said, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? What else? Somebody else tell me something new or something that they learned.
I feel like basically with this, if if someone changes their thought process and trying to think more positive about different things, it'll help with their reaction to certain things in the future. Instead of thinking like negative about things, it's better to think more positive, pretty much.
You're right. I totally agree with that as well, because that saying is like, you are what you eat, you are what you think, right? So if you're thinking negative, you're going to have those negative consequences and those negative issues in your life. But if you think positive, you're always going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I totally agree with that. Yes. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I found it interesting because I posted about this in one of the discussions, but when I was doing some of the research, I came across a video where Aaron Beck is actually meeting with the 14th Dalai Lama, and they're sitting, it was at
Wow.
the meeting of the minds, and they sit down and basically discuss, Buddhist traditions and the way that they handle, negative experiences and emotions. And to hear the Dalai Lama basically, in so many words, describe that what they do is essentially what CBT is. um, and, it was funny because Aaron Beck said, wow, so basically I should have written the book, 1,500 years ago. And so it's just really interesting to see. I mean, and this is in multiple different theories, but this idea that our perspective is what creates our reality, right? Our thoughts and the way we perceive things makes the world of a difference. And I know, I think for me, the part that was really interesting too was this idea of like core beliefs. And
Mm,
it kind of goes back to him being trained in, as a psychoanalyst, right? So these core beliefs that we develop in our childhood that then set the stage for these negative thoughts that come up due to triggering events of whatever kind.
yes.
And I just found that really interesting. It's cool how it's kind of universal.
Yes, you're totally right about that. It's almost like spiritual, right? When I hear you say that, it's almost like a religion type of thing, and just you have to believe it in order to achieve it and to see it as well. So I totally agree with you. Yes. Well, okay, so now that we're at the end of our PowerPoint presentation for our team, let's talk about this case study. Like, does anybody have any feedback on the case study?
My thought is that one of us, like, we act out the case study, right? So like one of us be the client, one of us be the therapist providing CBT, and then we just kind of have a discussion about it. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right, well, let's do it now.
Hi, welcome to my office. My name is Haley. What's your name?
Rosetta.
What brings you here today, Rosetta?
I just been feeling some type of way lately. Like I'm always down. I don't really like doing stuff. Um, I don't really like interacting with my kids. Like I'll take care of them, but I'll just go in my room. I don't really hang out with family anymore. Everyone says I'm pretty much negative. Um, I don't know. I just want to figure out what's going on with me, pretty much.
That sounds like a lot to handle, and I appreciate your honesty and coming in. I'd love to work with you to see, how we can improve. I heard you say that everyone thinks that or says that you're negative all the time. Can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Like something will be good, going on good that everybody thinks is good, and I'll think of the negative outcome of it. Like, it could be like a game on TV or something. I'm like, they're gonna lose anyway. Like, I don't know why you're betting on them. Like, everything is just, it's always gonna be bad, you know?
Okay, what should happen next? Like, should we talk about like a childhood to kind of see like where it's coming from or how it started? I think we should all like kind of jump in somehow.
So I would say, has there been anything lately that you feel like triggered these feelings?
A past relationship or a
Mhm.
death.
Well, like I just got out of this long-term relationship, and the guy was like cheating on me the whole time and lying to me. So, and then like a few years ago, my grandma died, and I was like really close to her.
So I hear that you've been experiencing a lot of loss, and sometimes when we experience loss, especially of people that we love, it can kind of skew the way we look at the rest of the world. And um, I'm sure that it's not that you don't enjoy your children or your family and friends, but because of these negative experiences, it's altered your perception of the joys in life.
That, yes, So let's just fast forward. So what would you tell her to kind of maintain or try to get over this? Like, what kind of
So
exercises, what kind of techniques, or?
So, like that instance when she said, everybody's excited about the sports game, but it doesn't really matter. They're going to lose anyways, right? So that would kind of go to one of those cognitive distortions, like this idea of just no matter what the situation, finding that one negative thing, trying to reframe that and saying, okay, so what happens if they do lose?
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, just trying to create another mental image for her to kind of,
Yeah,
rewrite her thinking.
right.
Yep.
Reframing the narrative that's happening.
I like that. Yes. And I think he was going to say something, Eric.
if we're talking in it right now, like I like how you went about that, Haley, and then I would come back and see, like Rodney was saying, what type of exercises have we been doing to try to break that cycle, so you don't feel that way. Like have you tried to attempt to go back to hang out with family members, or have you tried to even allow your kids to come into your space and just comfort you, show you love? It's just we got to start some point at that exercise.
You're right. I too agree. I understand what you're saying. So you're saying she needs to go in and kind of change that behavior. So go through that whole change process. Just understand that, hey, this is what I need to do. I need to start one thing to kind of start the process. Because right now, where's she at in that change wheel? She's probably at just contemplating it or thinking about, okay, well, I realize there's a problem now. And I realize that I need to do something. So I'm coming to someone for help. I'm coming to a professional to give me that, exercise or that benefit of making me change that decision or that idea in my head. But I like this. I really like this. Okay, so now let's talk back to the patient. How do you feel after hearing all this?
I feel like I can make some changes. Like with my kids, they're my world, so I know that they can change my perspective on my mood swings and things like that if I start being around them more. Hearing them laugh and seeing them smile and happy helps my mood. It's just that I don't want them to see me down, so I tend to stay away. But you're right. I feel like I should go around them more often, and that should help me should help my mind frame of thinking less negative,
Okay. All right. So to close this out, for the therapist, what should be the next session? Like when this patient comes back in, what should be the next session?
I would like to give you a homework assignment.
Yes.
So now in the next session, I would like you, when you start to feel negative, I'd like you to just write down the thoughts that you feel like happen initially. When you first start to feel that change in your mood, what is the thought that you have? And, this could be, if these thoughts are happening multiple times a day, just keep a little notebook. And then next week, I would like to look over them with you and kind of try to process, are these specific experiences that are triggering these thoughts, or, where they're coming from. So that way we can dig deeper and try to reframe and get a better perspective. So that way you can find joy in your daily life.
And with your kids.
I can.
Is that something that you're willing to do?
Yes, I'm willing to do that. I want to get better for my kids, so I'm willing to do that.